Okay, good morning. Sorry I couldn't be there today. So today we've got a couple of things here set up for our day today. I have intended to set aside some time for questions. If you'd watched this video and you had some questions on either the design brief or the brainstorming and concept sketches, we could do that. If you do have those questions, go ahead and send me an email today, either during class or some other time today, and I'll try to get those answered today. Today, what the goal is to talk about what's called the decision matrix. And then if you've got some time today, you could start making that decision matrix, or you could finish up any of your brainstorming concept sketches 1.1, 1.5. The plan wasn't to actually do the decision matrix until tomorrow. So if you need to get caught up on some of this first stuff, that would be a good thing too. So if you go ahead and click on this 1.1.5 project page on Canvas and scroll down to step 5, that's the one we're talking about here with the decision matrix. Before I have you do this thing and talk about specific ones for this class, I want to just talk about what a decision matrix is. So a decision matrix is kind of a mathematical way or a more objective way of determining the best option for a solution to a problem. And so it's going to compare multiple choices and you're rating them based on numbers so you can actually have a numerical answer to a problem. So when you're making a decision matrix, what you're going to have across the top are the different criterias or constraints that you're going to rate your ideas on. So if you have 4 ideas, this is what I asked you to, I want you to identify at least, let's go with 4 different things that you're going to rate these on. So for ours, like cost isn't going to be a good one because we're using mostly like recycled materials you're finding around the house. Complexity, though, that might be a good one, or development time. If you have an idea that's going to take you a long time to make, that might not be the best option. Or something that takes a little bit less time is a little bit better. Some of the other criteria, that you had was it had to be easy to understand and easy to set up. Those would be really good ones to include. If you've got a game that's going to take a long time to explain, then it's not as good for this application. You're going to want to list your solution ideas along these columns here. I would go ahead and give them actual names. So if you describe them in a couple of words, you know what's going on, and I know what's going on when I read them. And you're going to want to create a rating scale. A very common way to do this is just to go from like 4 at the best to 2 at the worst. Or if you've got a yes/no question, another option would be to do something like a 2 for a yes and a 1 for a no, or even a 0 for a no and a 1 for a yes would work out well too. And then you just rate each idea. So if you're looking at this one, if you're rating on cost, idea 4 is the best cost, which would probably mean it's the cheapest, where idea 1 is the worst cost, which would mean it's the most expensive. So always on these, giving higher numbers needs to be better because you're adding up the total to get the highest number. So you rate each solution using the rating scale, you add them up, and whichever one has the highest value is going to win. They do go ahead and give you a completely blank template here, I believe. It is a Word document, so you have to download it and then open it up. But it is a completely blank one. You're welcome to use that. You don't have nearly that many ideas. I would just go ahead and make a table in a Google Doc for this. This is an example of what one might look like based on these 4 ideas and these 5 criteria. So meeting the size constraints, to me, that's more of a yes or a no question. I might go like a 0 or a 1, but they did 4s and 3s. Either way, it kind of accomplishes the same goal. Engaging design, so the beanbag toss being the most engaging, and then these 2 being tied for least engaging. Easy to assemble. That one's not easy to assemble. Tic-tac-toe is really easy to assemble. All I have to do is give them the bags back. And then they just total these all up, and since this one has 18, the zombie beanbag toss is the winner. And so that's all you have to do with the decision matrix. From that point, the next step, and you can kind of see this from the rest of the week here, the next step is going to be to take that one solution that you've picked and develop it completely. And so what that means is to make a very detailed sketch of that idea. The sketches you made in the concept sketches are not nearly as detailed as I want for this. I want every single detail, what the game pieces are made out of, how they're going to do it, what the rules are for the game, how it's set up, what's the scoring like, how are you going to decide if you win or lose, all that kind of stuff is what I want in here. And then the last thing I guess I wanted to mention was just to talk about the design brief real quick. I know I got a couple of questions on that. So we can talk about that really quick. If you clicked on this one, it just brought up a window, and I believe you could type right into this. And there were 3 sections of this that you needed to fill out. The first one is just the designer. That's just going to be your name. So just put your name in there. The next one is the problem statement. We're trying to state the problem, like what thing are we trying to solve, or what opportunity do we have? And in this case, the problem might be something along the lines of, the school needs a game for the fun fair so that the students have a good time. Because of COVID, it needs to fit in a smaller footprint than normal. Now, that would be a great problem statement. It tells us why we need to redesign this game. And, we probably had games set up for last year, but you know what? We need a new one this year, and kind of what our goal is. The design statement is what you're going to do yourself. So this is the problem. This is how you solve it. And so for this, I might say design, test, or design, build, and test a fun fair game for the school fair. Right? Just basically telling you what you've got to do. You're going to design this thing, you're going to actually build it, and we're going to test it. And it's a fun fair booth for the school fair. So something like that is what you want to have in there. For the rest of these, just make sure you're really familiar with these criteria. These are probably the things you want to include in your decision matrix. And then your constraints here. These are kind of things where if you turn in an idea that is going to be bigger than 3 feet by 10 feet, I'm going to say, nope, you need to redo that. So don't go against any of these things. The times, don't worry so much about that. If you're following along with the individual assignments, you're fine, and they're a little bit flexible at this point anyway. So just as a quick review here, today you're working on the decision matrix to decide between the 4 ideas that you've created. If you're a little behind on these, you could certainly take some time to wrap up those 4 ideas. And then the idea would be to have a single idea selected and completely developed by Friday. The goal being next week, we actually start building this thing. Okay, hopefully I'll see you pretty soon. And remember, you can email me if you have questions about the project at all.